Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering Cradle, Book 12, Waybound, Prologue, and Chapters 1 and 2. In these chapters, we are entering the final phase, kids. And I don't know about y'all, but I am very down for another 12 books. Maybe, pretty please, is a treat. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Andy for commissioning these episodes. Andy has commissioned every single one of these 12 books, and I just want to say thank you, Andy, for introducing me to this universe, for putting down the coin so that I could read all of them, and I'm especially delighted to be able to start coverage for this book on the day it comes out. I had to break a little bit of a rule that I have in place for myself for pre-bookings, but I felt like it was worth it. You know, I don't usually get to do this, and it's the final book, and I just feel like if I'm not going to break a rule for something like this, then when? And I'm just really, really excited to be back in this universe. So, y'all, I'm like already kind of in mourning. So I'm just going to start off with a couple of bits of business. One, I have a dog recovering from a really bad infection, Sam. He is in my office right now. He's got a cone on, and he just tried to scratch himself with that cone on, which sounds like somebody shaking a Solo cup full of tennis balls, golf balls. And if you hear weird sounds and stuff, it's probably him. He seems pretty chill right now, but we'll see. And second bit of business, I have done the chapter breakdown for this whole book. Andrew commissioned 16 total episodes, but the breakdown I made, the lowest that I could go with pages per episode, it came out to 15 episodes total. Now, what Andy has said, and I think this is probably smart, I was asking, do you want me to refund the final episode and just, have it be the 15? Or maybe I could do like a Q&A or wrap-up episode. And Andy's like, why don't we just play it by ear? Because maybe there will be a day where you don't get to quite finish whatever, and we'll have some extra time, which I think is probably a good idea based on the way that I just get lost talking about everything when I talk about these books. And Scott is in the chat here about the plans for coverage with Rashawn. And, name is Rowan, but my Crowdcast won't update. Hi, Rowan. So I had said that I was going to cover the books with Rashawn, but because Will has not, come out publicly in support of trans folk, and really at this point Jewish folk as well, because the Harry Potter game is so incredibly loaded with gross stuff, and was posted like a video of himself playing the game and didn't address any of the comments that people left being like, really, dude? I just felt super not solid about endorsing a writer. I was already feeling like I cover a lot of male writers, and I just really was like, but I love these books. And I was already a little bit, you guys probably noticed, that there aren't a lot of, there's no queer characters in the books at all that we've run across, at least, or at least that it's been explicit about. And I have been sort of just hand waving that, because that's what most of us do in order to just enjoy stuff. But when he posted that video and was like going so hard and then didn't really respond to anybody's comments, it left a real bad taste in my mouth. And I just felt like I am going to put my energy into something that I feel like I can fully endorse the person as well. Because in my opinion, we are in a state in the US right now where you got to take a stand one way or the other. And this like riding the fence for me is not going to cut it anymore, not these days. So I'm going to be covering the Hunger Games with Rashawn, which on the reread was so much better than I remembered, and I'm really excited about. So anyway, those are my bits of business I wanted to get out of the way, and I don't want to leave a shadow hanging over everything, but I felt like I should just be upfront about all of that. And I am really, like, you guys, I want you to know when I post the chapter breakdown, I'm going to put it in the Discord. It's in some episodes, I'm going to be covering as low as like 25 pages, like 2 chapters. It's going to be so hard. It's going to be really difficult. And I'm already like anxious about it. However, at the same time, it's going to draw this out a lot. And because it's the last book, savoring things feels like the right thing to do. So I'm going to kind of try to approach it that way, as just savoring for the final sips of a really, really good drink or bites of a good meal. And I hope that y'all will not be too upset when I read extremely short sections. I am not worried, you'll notice, about filling an hour talking about 25 pages. That's of no concern to me. I will be able to do that, no problem. That's fine. But just reading that short an amount, it's going to be really tough. So, let's begin. The prologue, you guys, I reread Dread God and Reaper right before so that I could prep myself for this. And I'm really glad I did, because the end of Dread God, we have the Mad Kings like coming, and there's this whole feeling of, well, it's really clear that we knew he was coming and just allowed it to happen. So there's just, this whole thing is so fraught, because there's only a 1 in 16 chance that both Suriel and Osriel are going to make it out alive. And I'm going to say this, guys. I am going to just say, if Osriel dies, I'm going to be pretty upset. I'm just going to say, I accept that that may happen, and I understand that plot-wise, perhaps that's necessary. I'll be upset. If Suriel dies, I'm going to be real pissed. Like, very pissed. I'm going to be mad. I need both of my guys to make it, okay? Please? Thank you. Because I just don't, I just don't, especially like the Mad King. You guys know I have been really unsure about how much I even want to condemn the Vroshir, because I agree in a lot of ways that the Abaddon are an immovable and in some ways like corrupted organization that doesn't have the flexibility necessary and isn't facing that. So I understand why some people may not be fans of theirs, but the way the Vroshir are handling things is basically like, we're just going to go in and fucking murder people for funsies just to fuck their day up, which is not a tactic that I would endorse. So I don't know what I don't not on the Mad King's side. I'll just say that, okay? Let's just get that out of the way. I'm not on his side. However, I do feel like I kind of get him just being fed up. And granted, this isn't logic. He's coming through with a fiend attached to his like psyche. So he isn't operating from a place of logic and like real intent. He is coming from a place of intentional chaos for the sake of it to a degree. But I also wish that I could see a little bit more of the big picture with anybody who isn't a complete maniac and wanting to fight against the Abaddon. And I guess that's supposed to be Azrael, but because he's like the only one, it feels a little bit, there's not a structure here. And even the group that he has been grooming to come in and become executors, they don't really know about the whole situation with the Abaddon. They understand Azrael's personal feelings about his job and the fact that he wants to find a contingency plan, but I'm not sure how much they get about like the overall system in place and the inflexibility there. So you know what I'm saying? I'm just kind of, I don't know. The main thing though here is that Machiel saw that this was potentially possible. And at the end of the last book, the reason that he allowed this to happen was because if there were deaths, it would basically completely cover up his own crime regarding Azrael's scythe and what happened that led to the Mad King being able to create his prototype that is almost as good. And that's the part that really icks me out. That he's like so intent on sidestepping the consequences of his own shit. I just, my thing with Machiel, and I always like fall in this place when it comes to people who I think are profoundly bad people. I don't want death for those people. I want a real awakening of those people. And like there's a part in Sandman by Neil Gaiman where Dream comes in and there's a gathering of serial killers and he decides to punish them by making them all totally aware of how completely pathetic and inconsequential they are. And that is the punishment, is just that now they know and they see themselves clearly and get it. For Machiel, I want his power stripped. I want him to just be made into a fucking person. That's my ultimate, is for him to just be like, not necessarily killed. He doesn't have to die, but I would like for him to be removed from power and have to observe the world going on without him and realizing that like he isn't a factor the way he was. You know, he basically runs shit. And what if he didn't? What if maybe he just didn't? You know, we could put Emrys in his place. I'm just saying, I don't know how much she'd want the job, but if I was going to have somebody in that spot that can handle fate and who I trust, Emrys would be the shit, right? I mean, I'm just going to Emrys for president, frankly. So anyway, then we have this moment where Suriel is like, all right, I'm going to die defending this world from the Mad King. My life doesn't matter in the face of this. And Azrael is like, and he sends her a plan, to which her presence is like, that actually has pretty good odds. Suriel's very being rejected the plan. She would rather stay here and fight to the death. Come on, Azrael whispered. Let me clean up my own mess. Her presence fed the information into her awareness. The odds of them both surviving were terrible, but the odds of one surviving quite high, as long as they gave up on the other. So she jumps into the way and takes off and leaves him to fight the Mad King by himself. And reminder, he is unarmed. He does not have his fucking scythe. He tries to call it a couple times, doesn't work, which is truly just so rude. Like, oh, now it's on lockdown? Now nobody can get to it? Oh, okay. Great. Good time for security to fucking kick in. Ugh. Anyway. Now it was all about how quickly she could make it back. You can't, her presence began. Shut up. Dozens of tendrils erupted from all around her as a fiend reached into the way to grab her. It was quite powerful, having been left as a sentry to hold her back, but Suriel had no time to waste. She cut her way through, counting every second. She might already be too late. And then we go to Asriel. I thought you'd fight harder to stop her. Suriel would eventually be replaced, Daramon responded. How will they replace you? Asriel didn't have his presence with him, but he could see the potential outcomes well enough. His odds of walking out of here were small. And I was actually really gratified here that there's a mention of his presence, because that was something that I really noticed, was that we don't really see him interact with a presence in any of the books. Like, we know he had one because I think that's what filmed the message that he left for Suriel when he faked his own death. But, you know, we don't really see a back and forth, which I would kind of enjoy, because the whole thing is that your presence is formed a lot by your personality, like, right? So I would kind of enjoy seeing the way he copes with something that has bits of himself in it. I feel like that would be funny. So that is the end of the prologue. Now, see, I would like to point out, I'm 20 minutes in almost, you know. I got through my business, and then that was 4 pages maybe, and I spent a good amount of time on that. So breaking it down to be very small sections is the right thing to do. I am just extremely resistant and impatient and gluttonous when it comes to books. Okay, chapter 1. We are in Lyndon's pocket world that he stole from Rhaegon Shen. There is, in this chapter, references to many, many things that he has stolen from Rhaegon Shen specifically, which just delights me. And you guys, I want more than anything to jump into the POVs of the monarchs as they realize what's been taken. I cannot emphasize enough, y'all, how bad I want to be there and see it when they fucking comprehend. I am desperate. I'm so sad that we don't really see that. Like the last book, there's so much of them stealing, but things have to move forward in a way that we don't get those little petty moments. And while I totally understand that and respect it, personally, I really want like the satisfaction of just seeing, oh, right, this incredibly valuable artifact that probably is like beyond price is fucking gone. Sucks to suck. Sorry, Dan says how far you've come from just brushing over the Abaddon stuff in the early books. Yeah, I didn't get it at all. And I will be honest, you guys, going back and rereading, I find that to be the most difficult. Even now, knowing what, like, the significance of everybody, their names, and, you know, what they're referencing and stuff. Even so, I think that it was so much information so quickly with so little context that the only, like, that was the thing that I was sort of wondering how I would handle if I covered the books with Rashawn, was like steering her through that without spoiling too much, because some of it, it's the point that you don't know what it is, but it is very tricky. Scott says, I think he left it behind when he used the cloak to become Ethan, and the Abaddon didn't give it back. No, didn't that get stolen? Are you talking about the scythe? Or are you talking about the presents? The presents, I was assuming that, like, yeah, he left it, and because he's basically, like, still under arrest, they're not going to give it back right now. The Hunger Sage, Natasha Sage of Endless Breath, Path of Wind, Dream, and Hunger Aura. I like it. I like it, George. Rowan says it did feel like it came out of nowhere in the first few as well. I'm making sure that you mean the presents. I think I lost track of where we were. But George says Machiel's copies of the scythe were stolen, and then the angler put a fuller version together. Oh, so its copies were stolen, but the scythe, the real one, so we don't know where the scythe is? Or because the crime that Machiel committed was making attempts to create new versions of the scythe, if I'm not mistaken, right? Though that was supposed to not be allowed. And not only did he make them, he kept them, which was also an extremely bad idea. The Abaddon stuff came out of nowhere. Gotcha. Yes. So Asher says it disappeared. Okay. Gotcha. So yeah, we'll have to see where the fuck that shit is. So, okay. Anyway, I want to see the Monarchs realize their shit's gone. I know that there is a moment where in the last book, it's Northstrider who sees what Lyndon and Yaren are planning. Like, he sees that because he can see into fate a little bit. He can see that they are planning on robbing, but he decides not to tell his rivals about it because he doesn't want to give them too much of an advantage, which is indicative of exactly why the fuck the Monarchs suck so bad. And yet they do have some things that I think they stole from him as well. And I guess he just let them, or he thought he saw everything they were planning and he didn't see as much as he flattered himself he did, which is not totally, that's not out of the question for me, because we know Emrys is able to prune, right? A little bit. And I have to imagine she can hide things from him. Look, guys, I know that the last book, I basically sucked Emrys's dick a lot, but I am still on my knees for that bitch. Is she the best or what? I can't get enough of her looking sorrowful and regretful every time the camera is on her. She's just so torn and saddened by the whole thing, and then is in her mind cackling. Oh, the best. So, okay. Oh, okay. Andy says, at this point in the story, the location of the scythe is a mystery, but the reason Oz can't call it isn't due to security. It's because the Mad King has a sector on lockdown. Right. Thank you, Andy. Also, can I get a show of hands? How many people of you have finished the book already? I am recording this on June 6th, the day the audiobook dropped. The Kindle book dropped the day before. So, if you weren't waiting for the audiobook, you may have already finished it before release day. But I'm just really curious to see who here is spoiled already. Okay, so chapter 1 with Lyndon, we are with him in this pocket space, and it says they would pass weeks in a matter of hours. That level of time acceleration would strain the pocket world and was an inefficient use of the materials, but economy didn't concern Lyndon too much. It was worth burning a fortune for speed. It wasn't Lyndon's fortune anyway. And I was like, man, that is the best. It's just that he has got all of, I will never not be here for Lyndon's greed. It's just great. I love it so much. He is so fucking greedy. And it's chef's kiss. So Yaren entered the pocket world at virtually the same time. She glanced into his arms where Lyndon held Mercy's unconscious body. So Mercy wakes up, kids. And I am going to tell you what. Lyndon has to do something to stabilize her, and it's a little bit trickier than he expects it to be. But she jumped ahead in her book in order to fight her mother whom she punched, if you will recall, Queen. And he manages to pull this off, even though it's not as simple as he was expecting it to be. His command touched something deeper that ran beneath reality, a force that reminded him of Suriel and of the chambers at the very bottom of reality. That distant force echoed. A word? He's connected to the way? What? A spark of blue light flickered through Mercy, and Lyndon fell to his knees. He felt like he'd tumbled down a waterfall in less than a second. It was too much to command such power directly. He had stretched himself. You think? Okay. Bruh. Didn't even do it on purpose. Whoopsies. Okay, so we've got Dan, who has finished. George is at 68%. Scott has 2 hours left in the audiobook. Asher just says, not me. Rowan in chapter 29. Evil One says, wife finished first night. Damn. And Jan is also done. Woo! We got a lot of early birds. So it takes a moment for Mercy to understand where she is and what happened. And this poor thing just starts to sob. And I will tell you what, I'm so glad that I reread the last book, because it is truly fucking horrifying what Malice did to I was going to say to Mercy, but to her whole family. I mean, she fucking deceived Charity too. And the manipulation, beyond belief, how hard she went. I just found myself, I know that I was disgusted during the first read, but this time around there was something even more slimy and sleazy feeling about it, and I felt so badly for Mercy. This poor girl just deserves better. It's really something. It speaks to her that she is so empathetic and compassionate when she was raised the way she was. That's really just a fucking personality thing, That's when you go into nature versus nurture. I obviously believe in both. And that is just her nature, is that she is somebody who is always going to be warm and kind. And when people are like that, they have trouble believing in the capacity of those they love to do bad things, because they themselves would never, and they can't believe that somebody they would care about would do the thing. Because honestly, when it comes down to it, a lot of us do this. We have this idea in our heads that I would never be friends with a bad person. Therefore, this friend can't be bad. We work backwards. Instead of thinking, maybe I don't know that friend as well as I thought. Maybe they did some fucked up shit. And working our way forward through the potential of maybe believing a bad thing that we heard, we get defensive, as if an attack on our friend is an accusation against us as people. And this is what causes so many folks, I think, to defend abusers, because they are friends with someone and they don't want to believe that, one, they got fooled, and two, that they would be considering somebody who is capable of those things a good friend. So you get in this weird sort of circular thought where you don't believe you would do the thing, and therefore they can't have done the thing. And also, if you are a decent person, you tend to think from that perspective And thinking from the incredibly manipulative, power-hungry, straight-up lion-ass bitch perspective of Malice, Mercy can't do it. She just doesn't want to believe that's who her mother is. She says that's who her mother is. Part of her, like, overlady revelation was, I am not Malice. I am Mercy. My mother is ruthless. She likes seeing people scrape for attention, for favor, whatever. She can understand that in the abstract, but I don't think she believed Malice would be that way toward her specifically, or she didn't want to believe that. And also, it's one thing to know that somebody is just like enjoys power on a petty level. It's another thing to find out that somebody enjoys power on a level where they will literally let thousands of people die just so that they can keep clinging to it. That's a different thing. So Mercy breaking down here, I just fucking, oh, the poor girl. I really love her. And I'm so glad that they were able to like give her all the info in one instant with Dross. This whole thing with her coming to terms with it, it's going to take a while. You know, this is really trauma, basically. So let's see. The world was unsteady around Lyndon. The scepter in his left hand cracked, and a fragment of cloth drifted down from Northstrider's robe. All the items felt strained, with the notable exception of Emrys Silentborn's leaf. That was ripe with healing authority, so it had channeled his commands easily. And basically what's going on here is he manages to do this, but he's using help from Emrys. And when Mercy is just like, I can't believe you pulled that off, he's like, I didn't pull it off. Like, I partially pulled it off. And he is looking at the physical damage and is just like, oh boy, this is maybe going to be a little bit more difficult than I thought. He says, we might need to use these 4 more times. And Dross says, maybe once more? How do you feel about once more? In theory, he could get new objects of power. There was plenty of the labyrinth he hadn't explored yet. In practice, they didn't have the time for that. We haven't managed to open everything we stole. I'm sure we'll get everyone up to standard in time. And I really... There's a moment here where Lyndon tells Dross he has a job. And Dross sighs and agrees. And I'm like, what's that? Lyndon felt Dross's mind flash with thoughts of twisting dreams and white halos. I mean, obviously we're thinking Silent King here, but is this to do with the binding? Lyndon didn't make anything with that binding quite yet, did he? So maybe that's Dross's assignment, is to like figure out how they can use it. But anyway, so yeah. When Mercy calms down, she's like, you guys should just ascend because my mom is not going to let up. And Lyndon's like, well, you can too, like soon enough. And she starts to be like, yeah, okay. And then checks herself and realizes like, I'm very solid actually, because she thought she broke something, and she had. And she says, am I a herald? Zeal pops out. Bless this man. That would be unfair. To Lyndon, Zeal felt almost as steady as Mercy did, especially compared to the wounded, unbalanced soul he'd possessed for most of the time Lyndon had known him. Not only was his spirit more stable than Lyndon had ever felt it, but there was a curious depth to it that Lyndon knew to be the first wisps of vague authority. Zeal had begun to resonate with an icon, as Lyndon had sensed before, though it was hard to tell which one. So, yeah. It's, everybody is like on the cusp of some big moves and not there yet. And I am really excited to see what happens. I can't remember what icon he had started to manifest, but I think I had guessed that it was going to be something about a shield. And that was what it looked like we were getting. I may be wrong. If you guys want to remind me, or if you don't want to remind me, that's also fine. Sometimes that's the fun part, is just me not remembering shit. So here it is. He had been looking forward to this. Through the scripted containers and restrictions Lyndon had placed, power radiated out of the keys. Space trembled gently, though Lyndon was encouraged that the pocket world remained stable. So, he opens Orthos's void key, and guided by vital aura, the marble on the edge of the island flowed up into another cave entrance. The cave continued beneath the surface, though it wasn't deep. I'll make our cycling room first, Orthos. We don't have as much space as I'd like, but it will be big enough for the two of us. So he is putting these rooms together. You guys, this stuff is so wild to see Lyndon doing. Like, just this kid has come so far. It's so satisfying. It really is. It's rare for any sacred artist to be able to cycle with ultimate natural treasures. Let's all thank the monarchs for financing our operation. Little Blue applauded. Oh, I love that so much. So he's got the Heaven's Torch and, fire aura. We've also got the thing for Zeal that is this, really weird drum, and he has to handle it super carefully because if he were to give it a good sized tap, it could potentially just completely shatter this world that they're in right now. And he pulls out also a vial of void matter, the ultimate treasure of destruction aura, and Orthos is like, what? I've heard of it. I never thought I would get to see it. And it sounds really weird. A flickering, buzzing gray that looked like the world hadn't made up its mind what color it should be, and it shifted and twitched in place like it was made of 10 million tiny insects. Ew. Hate it. I agree with Little Blue. No thank you. Blade crystal for Yaren, a paper-thin jewel he had to hold gingerly with aura. One of the forms of ultimate sword treasure. It was so sharp it was better used for training than actual combat. And that would balance out the Heart's gem she already has. And then that he filled with a drop of abyssal ink. That's for Mercy's training room, which rejected all light. He had to wait until Zeal finished the containment script for that one, or it would have darkened the entire pocket world. And yeah, then he pulls out the thing for Zeal. I love Zeal being like, I'd understand if you couldn't find anything for me. And Lyndon literally interrupts with a big bow on a fucking present. The monarchs must hate you, Zeal said. They do, Lyndon replied. Truly, truly wonderful. Fuck them. Fuck those bitches. I hate them so much. Oh, God. So, finally, he had one stretch of the marble island left to work with. He raised Pale Stone into a long, narrow building with 8 rooms, like a stable made to hold exactly 8 horses. And this is for everybody to sleep in, which he does not enjoy having to put that space to use that is not for advancement, because he is a very single-minded young man. He just is. So, let's see. The construct that he pulls out, it's made out of the Silent King's halo. And Dross is like, I'm really excited about it, but also I don't want to be the one to activate it. You should do it. So he does. An illusion filled the room. It was the image of another cave, one made of dark blue-black stone, a hollow that had been carved into the very foundation of the labyrinth. It was filled with flickering images. Lyndon looked into it and saw a kind of mirror. Himself as an unsouled, himself with no dread god arm, dying of old age, his parents as children, Yaren fighting malice with her sword arms black instead of red. Past, present, and future flickered in a headache-inducing collage. And he says, we put together all of these memories from me and from Dross, and it's a little bit too much for any of us to understand. And the thing for me is like, I know that Zeal has the earth thing with all of his rune work and his hammer and everything. Does he work with dream aura? Is that a part of his path that I didn't realize? Because I don't remember this, guys. It's part of what he made for him, but I didn't know. Zeal is like blinking back tears. I'm assuming this is due to the pain of trying to look at the thing, and not because he's emotional, but it may be just that he's emotional. So then we have, let's see. Lyndon deactivated the construct. Everybody gave a sigh of relief. Oh, okay. Andy says, no, the caves are powered by Silent King Dream Aura. So what's the cave for? Have I missed that? Or do we just not know that yet? I probably should have read this section twice. I probably should have. But I'll be reading all of the other sections twice, I promise, because I'm going to be fiending after only 2 chapters. So, let's see. Since the illusion construct wasn't active, the 8th opening only looked like an empty marble room. Athan's original creation, the height of his path. We're going to join them soon, Lyndon said. And they just talk basically for a little bit about the fact that they are going to be trying to do something that is essentially feeling right now like it's totally impossible. And I honestly, this is why we need people like this in the world. Because if I were any of them, I mean, I just straight up wouldn't be here. Like, let's be real. I would not be among this party. I don't have it in me, kiddos. I want to live a balanced, happy life. And these are folks that happiness is a real non-factor in a lot of ways. Like, happiness comes from a place with them that I can't relate to. And that's the thing. I think that anybody who is exceptionally good at anything has to make such sacrifice for that I just don't have any interest. Thank you, but no, you know? So at this point, Mercy shows up and is like, hey, have we named this place? And we have a pretty good, first of all, Orthos is saying to Dross, do you want to name it Death's Midnight Cemetery? Which I did laugh out loud. And Dross is like, shh, would you leave me alone with that? I had an emo phase, okay? I'm over it. I don't like to talk about it. And then Dross is like, I have a name because I was born in Ghostwater. How about Drosswater? And everybody is like, I don't think so, buddy. Honestly, Dross, it sounds like you're pissing. Like, just nah, bud. I get where you're coming from, but no. Zeal says training chamber number 1, and Lyndon's like, yeah, I feel like that could work. Everybody else is like, are you fucking serious? Stop it. No. And then Orthos is like, well, wind for windfall, and we're from the Ashwind continent. And Lyndon says ghost wind, because it involves ghost water, so we're paying homage to that, and she called me the empty ghost. And then Mercy says Ghost Wind Hall. And at first Yaren's like, ugh, Hall? I have not had great times with places that have Hall in it. But then Lyndon's like, I'm pretty sure the Sage of Red Faith, if he heard that we were calling this place Hall, would think we were mocking him. And Yaren's like, "Nuff said. Hall it is. Let's do it." So, Ghostwind Hall, ladies and gentlemen. So then we go to chapter 2. And I had actually heard a lot of this chapter in the reading that Will White did at a con. I think he was at Dragon Con. But he did a live reading of an as yet not totally finished chapter. He warned everybody in the audience that like potentially things will change once this comes out. But it was a really, really fun sequence. And I was thinking based on it, on the way that this chapter went, that it was probably going to be pretty soon in the book. And it was really fun to hear it again, especially, you know, obviously when he does it, it's just Will White's voice. He's not Travis Baldry. And it's much, much more fun to listen to it in Travis's voice. So this chapter is Lyndon basically telling everybody, I am going to have to train you in such a way that y'all are gonna fucking hate me. I apologize ahead of time. And he's really nervous about it. The whole thing is like, he starts off so uncertain that everybody is starting to lose faith a little bit. And eventually, once they realize what it is he's saying, they're like, oh, well, yeah, okay, let's do that then. And what is going on is that Lyndon knows, first of all, that he is basically telling them, I'm stronger than all of you, so you'll have to fight me to train, which is a fucking flex. It is deserved, but it is a flex, and he is not used to flexing on people in that kind of way. He flexes on people with his actions all the goddamn time, but in words, that's different, you know? So there's that, and there's also the fact, I think he's aware that they all underestimate him a little bit, so they're very blithe about how, oh yeah, we're going to go up against him, no problem. And he's like, oh, they don't get it. They just don't. And they're not gonna like it. So he has to use his willpower against them and they have to endure it. That's it. And at one point, they're like talking about fighting back. And he's like, let's just start with, you know, not crumpling, which they think might be him overestimating himself. And they quickly find out that is not correct. And Zeal is like, well, we could line up by advancement level. But Lyndon says, I'll be adjusting my pressure for each of you. Zeal finally showed a dumbfounded expression. Did he think Lyndon was bragging? Or perhaps exaggerating his own control? And I think it's not even that he thinks Lyndon's bragging. I think he knows Lyndon doesn't brag. So if he says that, he can. And Zeal is just like, you can do that? Jesus fucking Christ. Like, I think that's pure what it is. He's just flabbergasted that that's even possible and how casual Lyndon is about it. So then Mercy's like, well, maybe we should do this individually because maybe some of us are going to be embarrassed. And she looks at fucking Little Blue and Lyndon's like, Little Blue will not be the first one down. I'm just saying. And Little Blue's like, fucking goddamn right I'm not. She is so like, just indignant. I love this. So, I will need to set aside my personal feelings for each of you. You may feel that I am ruthless or sense me as an enemy, but please don't take it to heart. So, everybody's like, let's fucking do this. And we go to each of their POVs. Orthos is the first one. And I knew he would be the first to drop out. Bless you, Orthos, but you knew it too. So he is like, kind of amused at the fact that Lyndon thinks so much of himself and is like, well, he's going to find out. But when Lyndon drops his veil, Orthos literally yells because it's so much. And he is rooted to the spot. But if he were not, my impression is that he would have fallen flat on its ass. So, yeah, he's like looking at him like, okay, yeah, I'm going to die. This is death. Death is here. Death is coming for me. And he just collapses. It's like almost right away. I felt so bad for him. That was real quick. Then we go to Mercy. And this is rough because she is pretty secure in her ability. But what she isn't prepared for is how much going up against Lyndon in this way reminds her of going up against her mom, which once again, trauma. And it is shaking her quite a bit. And she's like trying to summon her armor. She's trying to get to the book of, Eternal Night. And then she's like, but that's not the point. Like, the point isn't like how many toys and trinkets can you use? It's, can you take it? I gotta just like see what I can do without all of that shit. And the answer is she's second down. But she's not the first, and so that's something for her. Then Little Blue, who straight up is like, of course he feels threatening. Of course I'm not threatened. He would never. Let's do this. And she's so like matter of fact about it. I love her. And she collapses third and is like, ha, third. You two bitches went before me, including the one who acted like maybe I would be embarrassed. Suck it. And then we go to Zeal. He is just like, all right, so he's trying to kill me. Well, what of it? I'm gonna fucking do what I do. And it's just like, I'm gonna stand here. I'm gonna stand here. I am going to stand. I am standing here. I am standing here. And it's just fucking as hard as he can, bullheaded. This is a stubborn man. That's like, really goes with the Earth Aura thing, honestly. And finally, his knees start to shake and he just goes down. And he's like, hey, you know what? I did all right. Second to last. That's not too bad. Okay. And then we go to Yaren. And she is like, all right, I'm going to go up against him. It's going to be fine. I know he's tough, but I'm also tough. And then he does his thing and she's like, oh, shit. I am not sure who that is, but that is not Lyndon. That is a thing that is going to kill me. This is very, very bad. I am starting to break already. And she pushes back, hanging on to the memory of fighting her blood shadow and using that to sort of like anchor her, remind her, you are a bad bitch and you can do this. She pushed back hard, watching for him to slide back a step. The aura around him rippled, causing a slight breeze to tug at his clothes, but he didn't move his hands from behind his back. He didn't even blink. He only gazed back. And truly, for me, that is rough. Like, seeing it and being like, all right, I'm going to at least get you to, like, shift a little. And it does nothing. Ouch. That's gotta hurt. And he ratchets up the pressure a little bit more. And then she goes down. She was flattened to the ground, though he let up instantly. And while she had prepared herself for the possibility of losing, she was still filled with shame. She had thought she'd stand a chance. Everybody is just like, are you all right? I hate you, Zeal said. Oh, it's good shit, you guys. It's good shit. So that's where the live read ended with Will. So beyond this point was new. And we go to everybody like training. We have Orthos and Blue together. And Orthos is like, I think she's stronger than me now, actually. Which Lyndon is surprised that he actually says out loud. But Lyndon is like looking back at everything Little Blue has done and is like, you know what? She has worked real hard, actually. Everything she's done, she's starting to become like material. And he sees that even though he doesn't believe they're fully functioning, she has a heart and lungs developed, which is pretty cool. And let's see. I'm trying to find the spot here. Once you recover it, I'll give you some soul fire. After she stabilized, her advancement would be down to absorbing Lyndon's Madra. In a few weeks or a handful of months, she would have adapted to the full power of his pure core. Then it would come down to her to advance to Herald. And let's see. Then he goes to Orthos. And the turtle is struggling a little bit here. Lyndon has to ask him again, are you down to do this? Because Orthos has been very hesitant and uncertain. And Orthos is serious. And it's just like, yes, I am. So Lyndon's like, all right, I'm going to get real with both of you. You're not making it to Monarch. But you can be a herald. And it's funny because both Orthos and Lil Blue are like, well, of course we're not. Like, it didn't occur to them that they would be monarchs, apparently. So Lyndon's acting like he's breaking bad news, but they aren't surprised at all. And it says, even with fortunes stolen from all over the world, Lyndon didn't have the resources for that, not to mention the time. Then let's get started. He left most of the remnants for Orthos' use, and at the request, Orthos released one of the Underlord remnants from his void key. And there's this serpent remnant, and Lyndon is like breaking it down and transferring some of the Madra from it to Orthos to process, and is warning Orthos, look, I know you haven't done this before. You're going to have to like contend with the remaining will that's going to be in this Madra that I'm giving you. And there's going to be memories mixed in there. It's going to be a little tough. Like, just get ready for that. And Orthos is like, all right, I'm going to get to see what you went through. And that makes Lyndon stop and go, oh, that was tough. Oh, I don't know if I want to do this. I got to do this. I don't want to, but I got to. So he does it. And Orthos does indeed have a difficult time. Dross is saying that he's going to give him like 40%, but he's not even doing that. And Orthos is like kind of he's shuddering and sort of like flickering with sparks and stuff. It's just a really, he knows, he agreed to this, you know, but I can understand how hard it is, even when somebody knows when they're struggling and it looks like they're suffering. That's a difficult thing to sit back and like inflict on a friend. So yeah, this moment I just felt really bad, especially he like opens his eyes and he's looking around and doesn't know who Lyndon is, doesn't know where he is for a second. And Lyndon has to just like project certainty and get him to sort of cling to that and calm down. And finally Orthos is like, wow, that fucking sucked. And think of it this way, only 3 more of those and then you'll be ready to advance to Overlord. Maybe 4. And I think he says 14 total to get him to Herald level. One of the remnants is Noraloth, the incredibly cowardly dragon. You guys, Noraloth is literally wagging his tail. I absolutely cannot with this fucking dragon. Like, he is such a goon. Oh my god. I know that he has to be consumed. Like, that's the deal. I regret it. I'm sad about it. Oh, God. I would like you to supervise Orthos' training. I'm sure you have insights into the path of Black Flame that would serve him well. Of course. Whatever you wish. I still don't trust you, new guy. Noraloth's tail froze. I have no doubt he can handle it. I just truly, this bit, any time that he pops up, I think I'm going to be delighted. And again, I'm very, very sad already that I know eventually he's just going to be food. Like, that's the deal. But I don't have to like it. I also am really interested, you guys, in seeing Red Faith's remnant again, because the deal was that, like, Yaren says, I'll continue your research, you can come with me, and puts him in her void key, so he's, like, around. And what is he going to be like? Very, very curious. Okay, so let's see. Lyndon pushed down his doubt before it could leak through their connection and affect Orthos. As much as anyone, Lyndon knew how advancing through the various stages of the Lord Realm and fighting directly against the will of others could help clarify yourself. Orthos would change and grow through this process. So would the others. Walking this path would prepare them for the rest. He had to trust that. Trust them. I really appreciate that part of it. Because that's what it comes down to when you're working on a team, is being willing to put your faith in other people's competence, intelligence, and work ethic and commitment to whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. And that's not an easy thing to do, you know? Like, it's very easy to say, but I really like that Lyndon recognizes that this is the point where he has to do. It's like being a parent and eventually letting your kids start to make major decisions for themselves and leave and go live somewhere else, and having to trust that they are enough of an adult so far that they can navigate without getting hurt or hurting other people. And he is, you know, doing everything he can. And he's certainly far enough ahead of them that it's valid he be worried like this. But I do appreciate the reminder that there's a reason they're all part of the same team, and it's because he knows that they're capable. So I'm just really, really looking forward to seeing how things shake out with everyone. And again, I said at the beginning, you know, I'll be mad if Osriel dies. I'll be super mad if Suriel dies. If anybody on our team dies, I don't even know what to say about that. Like, it's just not, no, right? Like, no, we're not gonna, that's that. So it ends with Lyndon saying, I need to focus. Let's do some soul smithing. There were plenty of preparations still to make, and getting them done now would save him time in the long run, plus it would settle him down. They still had time. You know, I relate to Lyndon so much on so many things, and this is one of them. Just like, when I know there's a bunch of shit, I can't relax, you know? Doing things is what calms me down, and that makes me feel like shit's under control a bit. So, I related to this. This is like, when I'm stressed real bad, I tidy. I plan, you know. When it's real bad, granted, I hide and do nothing. But that's more depression than anxiety. So, I just really hope everybody makes it. That's my primary concern. Dread gods, sure. But mostly, I care about my friends. Let's be real. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you again so much to Andy for commissioning this. Super excited. And I'll see all of you guys on Thursday with the next. Let me just say at the end of this episode, I'll post it in the Discord like I have done before. But let me just look and see what the chapter breakdown is. 3, 4, and 5 for next time. So I'll see you guys on Thursday with 3, 4, and 5. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.